10 things that stood out about Andor. I just finished binge watching both seasons. Now, when the first season came out, I wasn't interested because I'm mostly interested in Jedis and lightsabers and Sith. Never was a fan of Han Solo or any of that side story stuff. I just want the Jedis. Now, I understand season 1 did not do very well in terms of viewership. Not sure how well season 2 did. But there is a main reason why this show, at least the first season, did not do very well. And that is The Last Jedi. Remember the good old days when people said that George Lucas killed their childhood by making the prequels? Oh, how naive we were. Personally, I liked the prequels. And I'm 47 years old, so, I was 6 years old when I saw the original trilogy. And I still liked the prequels, especially because my favorite character Palpatine was featured in it, in that prequel. I mean, how can I do any kind of video about a Disney Star Wars show without first starting with The Last Jedi, Disney Star Wars? The Last Jedi was basically equivalent to basically saying, oh, everything that happened before was just a dream. You know those original 6 movies, episodes 1 through 6? Well, Luke Skywalker just woke up and it was all a dream. If The Last Jedi hadn't happened, or had been a real, or somewhat competent Star Wars movie, all of the following shows and everything would have been tolerated. That recent Star Wars kids show, like the Goonies Star Wars, that would have been a huge hit. Ahsoka and Obi-Wan would have been huge. And so with Andor, and correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't Rogue One, did that come out before The Last Jedi? Is that why it did well? Or was it just that there was still some remaining goodwill? Oh look, it turns out Rogue One came out a year before The Last Jedi. So there you go, that's why it did so well. So I went into this show with some high expectations because a lot of people who I respect were praising it. YouTube loves a top 10 countdown, but these are in no particular order. So we'll start with 10. Andor tells the other side of the story. And by that I mean it tells the story of what life was like for the rebellion and after the fall of the Republic for, everyday people. Not only is it a bridge between the prequels and the sequels. When I say the other side of the story, I sort of mean like from the perspective of someone else that was not one of the original cast, that has nothing to do with the original cast. And not just one person's other side of the story, but many people's, including the Empire, people that work for the Empire, how they perceived the events that were going on. 9. The world building. This show builds the Star Wars world to a degree that I don't think has happened before. You get to see everything from how jails work. There's like 3 episodes where Andor goes to jail, and you see how jails would work in the Star Wars galaxy. You get to see all these little intricacies of life on Coruscant and other planets, and life on other planets, our daily life on other planets, in reaction to this new empire. Number 8, we get to see the common man in the Star Wars universe. There's not one lightsaber, there's not one Jedi, there's not one Sith, there's not one use of the Force. In a way, I guess you'd call it like the death of a salesman of Star Wars, because before Death of a, I think it's before Death of the Salesman was the first play that didn't involve like royalty. It didn't revolve around that. I think it was the first, one of the firsts. And before that, every play was always about kings and nobility, whereas Death of a Salesman was just about an everyday loser, and that's essentially what this show is. Every character is pretty much unimportant and just an everyday Joe. Number 7, it provides keen insights into how a rebellion grows and works against an empire. It has a very 1984 feel to it, because it's like, how do you operate in a world where you're being filmed all the time? Somebody's following you, somebody's undercover and they're spying on you. And in terms of the whole spy subterfuge theme genre, I feel this did what Secret Invasion couldn't do, or was trying to do. Number 6, the absence of the Jedi and the Sith makes the Jedi and the Sith even cooler. I watched this show thinking, oh my god, imagine like what a Jedi, how much he would kick ass in that situation, but they don't have Jedis to help them. Or imagine how much more terrifying it would be if there was a Sith Lord there, if the Emperor showed up, blah blah blah. But the very fact that they're not there leads you to your imagination to be like, oh my god, this is so much more hardcore than they even think. In the original trilogy, the lightsabers don't come out that often, so when they do come out, it's very special. Similarly, in the case of Andor. Number 5, this is realistic Star Wars. The good people, the rebels, they do very bad things. And some of the Imperial characters show vulnerability, and they show emotions, and you see they're trapped and they're at times repentant. Realistic to the point that I don't think I could call it sci-fi or fantasy. It's not really the story of Andor as much as it's the story of the building of a rebellion. You could very much have this take place on planet Earth and just be a fictional story on planet Earth, where instead of going to different planets, they're just going to different cities or towns, and it would still work equally well. In terms of being a self-enclosed story, it works even better though, because it helps with the hype of what's about to come, that we all know is going to come with the sequel trilogy. I might even call this a drama rather than an action sci-fi fantasy. It's a drama. Damn you, Last Jedi, won't you get out of here? Why can't you cancel yourself out of here? Get lost, you jerk. I'm trying to talk about Andor. Well, you linger though, don't you? You linger, you bastards. In the intro to Andor, where they show all the helmets right after the Star Wars logo, it shows or before that, it shows all these different helmets, and it includes Kylo Ren's helmet, and I'm just like, oh, come on, get that out of here. We don't want anything to do with, we don't want any of this sequel trilogy to tarnish anything, please. 4, it's the story of the unknown soldier. Now, I've already said it's 1984, no, it's this, it's that. No, every story can be viewed as different, it has different elements. So this is the story of people who are never going to get any renown. They're never going to go down in history. They're never going to get any praise. They're just going to die and they'll be forgotten. But they all played a pivotal part in what is to come. It's not just Luke Skywalker who came along and blew up the Death Star. There were thousands. Many Bothams died to help Luke. However, it does not detract from Luke's accomplishment, which is wonderful. I told my mother on Mother's Day, one Mother's Day, I says, you do so much to make us all look so good. You always remind us when it's our grandparents' birthday, etc. You always tell us when the birthdays are, so you make us all look good, and you don't get any of the credit. And that's kind of like what this is. It's the everyday person who does good deeds but gets no credit. And conversely, if that's the right word, the villains, there's many villains who did so much to help the Empire, but then the Empire just kills them or puts them in jail. And they don't get any of the credit for being the villains. 3, the 3-episode arcs. So the story progresses usually like in a 3-episode arc formula. So there's the 3 episodes where he's in jail, and then season 2, every 3 episodes is 1 year separated in time. And I don't know how season 1 was released, but season 2 was released in 3-episode chunks, weekly. And in terms of publicity, presentation, I think that's a novel idea, and more shows should do similar things. Have interesting release schedules. 2, the story is very relevant now. By now, I mean the world, the empire, our current world empire is the United States, and it has become an empire. Now, had this show been released 10 years ago, it might not have been as potent. Certain movies and TV shows come out at the wrong time. This came out at the perfect time. The fact that characters in this show, the good characters, have to make sacrifices, they have to kill people. Sometimes they have to kill good people in order to make progress, is very relevant, because that's what's going to happen. That's what's going to have to happen to defeat our real world empire right now. And also, not on topic, slightly on a tangent, it explains how, when Luke destroyed the Death Star, he also killed millions of people on that Death Star. Some of them families, perhaps. But that's what it takes. And it also reminds me, what if... Basically, okay, so in the Star Wars universe, there's one Death Star. In other words, one nuclear bomb. And that's why they got all the power. Whereas in real life, it's even worse, because there's hundreds of nuclear bombs. There's at least 5 countries that have nuclear bombs. So this would be like if there were 20 Death Stars, and any of them could decide to fire at any time on each other. And it's even worse because our nuclear bombs don't just destroy, a planet, an isolated planet. They destroy a part of our only planet. And even worse, one of them goes off, another one will go off. So, in other words, the whole world will be gone, right? If one country sends a nuclear bomb, then the other country will reciprocate, and every country will be gone. So in a way, it's sad to say, but this story is less grim than our reality. Oh, Luke, why did you have to milk a cow? Oh, Leia, why did you have to become Mary Poppins? Oh, Rey, why did you have to become more powerful than Yoda overnight? Oh, Kylo, why are you such a pansy? Oh, Finn, why did you turn into the token black guy? Oh, Poe Dameron and every other character in this god-awful piece of garbage. Why did you guys all have to end up doing nothing in the whole trilogy? I don't even want to call it a trilogy, because that gives it too much. That makes it sound like it's something when it's nothing. Why did you have to tarnish Star Wars forever and make everything, including Andor, more difficult to watch? 1, it's hardcore. Now that bleeds into a lot of other points that I made, but there's no jokes in it. It's a show for adults. There is not a child on this planet that would enjoy watching this show. My overall thoughts are that, it was a good show. It wasn't great. I'd give it a 6 out of 10, and that's high praise, because I generally wouldn't give something a 6 out of 10 unless it's worth watching. I don't think it has rewatchability. I think it's fairly educational, again, because, like I says, it shows you how a rebellion works. It kind of reminds me of the recent show Daredevil Born Again, which in a way is like a Marvel show for adults. However, Andor is way more adult than Daredevil. Andor is just very, very real life. I don't know what to say. There's no magic. There's no real stunts. It's a lot of conversations. A lot of episodes where there's no action and there's just people talking and discussing the state of the world. Again, the real tragedy is this show would have been a smash hit if it wasn't for The Last Jedi. Lest we never forget, we can never let Disney off the hook for The Last Jedi. I've said before and I'll say again, there are two things Disney has to do to get people like me, the all lifetime Star Wars fans, back. Number one, they have to say that the sequel trilogy was all a dream. Like, they have to just void it from the canon and redo the sequel trilogy. I don't care how you do it. You have to figure out how to do it. Redo it. Strike that sequel trilogy from the records and make a new one. And number two, you have to have two characters in the new sequel trilogy based on Kathleen Kennedy and Rian Johnson, where Kathleen Kennedy is a Hutt and she goes and it has to look exactly like her, and then Rian Johnson is like a salacious crumb and he just goes sorry for I can't do the laugh, and he just is just like this little dork. Then I could forgive. If they can do those two things, I would forgive Disney, and I'd give Star Wars another chance. Barring that, no, you don't get anything. You're lucky you got this review of mine. If you care about yourself, then like and subscribe. Help me help you. This has been your human warning.